a market that has probably seen more innovative change and growth in the last 3 years than it saw in the previous 25 years. I always remember from being young and my dad saying to me, you do realise, you don't have to do something new. You don't need a new idea or an invention to do well in business. You just need to do it better than your competitors.
I'm really looking forward to my next guest on Business Unlimited this week. He's somebody who's got a really interesting story to tell, and I think it comes back to the core of what business really is about, which is about people. It's a tech business. It's a service that probably everybody needs these days. And what he's identified is that you have to go back to the basics sometime and really work out what makes people tick, what their problems have been with services in that sector that they've tried before, and to really understand and listen to who they are and what it is they want to achieve. That requires emotional intelligence. It requires good listening. It requires being able to speak fluent human and be able to really understand what people are about and what makes them tick, which is all about building trust. And in this day and age, particularly with the fast pace we live in and with AI, trust is becoming an increasingly rare commodity. So I would really encourage you to tune in, listen to what he has to say, and be prepared to have some of your assumptions challenged and to go back to the basics of why you set your company up and what it's really about and who it is you want to do business with. Liam Parnell, Managing Director of wayv. Welcome to Business Unlimited.
Thank you.
Great to have you with us. Really looking forward to this conversation because we're going to find out you're in a sector which there is a lot of competition in. It's a service or set of services that most businesses these days need and will at least need to consider. But I think it's really the communication and the understanding of what makes other people tick and how to build trust that's going to be really interesting in this conversation. I haven't even teased yet or told anybody yet what the service is because I want you to do that.
Well, we're in the telecommunications market, so we provide telecommunications, broadband services, telecom services, innovative technology, along with managed IT services to predominantly small, medium-sized businesses right across the country, and it's a market that has probably seen more innovative change and growth in the last 3 years than it saw in the previous 25 years. So it's certainly been an interesting kind of 6 years, if you like, to when I kind of got together
and
with the
evolving
guys.
so quickly all the time. Voice,
so quick,
software, hardware, all of it's changing all the time.
And we've now got AI, automation, transcription, and what we're doing with transcription services for businesses now. It's rapid. It's incredibly fast moving now.
If you go back a little bit, though, at the point you met Ryan, you're the managing director. Ryan's your business partner now in wayv, but then it was you telecom, am I right in thinking?
Yeah, so Ryan and Ben had set up what was essentially at the time a subcontracting business. So they would go and they would get contracts to go and install and provide maintenance services and things on behalf of other telecoms companies, and they had a drive to see if that could be made into something bigger. I had some time available at that point, and having talked it through with the guys and understood a bit more about the market, what they were seeing, because they were in a unique position. They were going on behalf of other telecoms companies and speaking to businesses, and they were seeing challenges in the industry. The industry has not been where it should be for quite some time. And having talked that through, it was becoming clear that, all right, this is an incredibly competitive marketplace, but there are big opportunities here for this to be done differently, to come at it from a new set of eyes. And I always, it's funny, but I always remember from being young, he probably only said it once, but I was always kind of interested in business, and my dad saying to me, "You do realise, you don't have to you don't need to do something new. You don't need a new idea or an invention to do well in business. You just need to do it better than your competitors." And I was sat there talking with the guys and stuff, and I'm thinking, this is an opportunity here. And that's how it began. Yeah.
So the evolution from U Telecom to wayv, you had that time to be able to analyze what's working, what's not working. What were you seeing in the sector that wasn't working, where B2B customers were getting disappointed with some of your competition?
Quite rightly, there was a huge lack of trust, and that had been caused from businesses to back to providers, and businesses had no idea, where they could place their trust anymore. They'd been let down, whether it was mis-selling, lack of support, price hikes, changes. We're in an industry that unfortunately is not very well regulated, should have a lot more regulation against it. Some of the regulations we put on ourselves, but businesses were being let down, and it had got that hard that they didn't. One of the biggest things that struck me from that kind of 18 months of going out and talking to businesses was, on numerous occasions, you would sit there with a business and they tell you that, they're not happy with the service they're getting. But at least they knew how bad it was, and that's disappointing to hear. They're paying for something that's incredibly important to the operation of the business, and they are content with disappointment because they don't know where else to turn.
Yeah.
And
it's like the frog boiling in the water, isn't it?
It's disappointing, and so I think that very quickly the approach that we came at this is, how do we overcome, because that's the biggest challenge. Then, once the trust's gone in the industry, what can we do to ensure that a customer can say confidently, right, wayv, or whoever it might be, wayv are the right partner to go with next, and without feeling that they're putting their business at risk.
And that time you had in that exploration phase, where you weren't rushing into trying to sell, is that an important sort of foundation? Because as soon as people start feeling like they're being sold to, when trust isn't high and trust hasn't been built first, probably might push them away even further. So what was the point at which you felt like you could then start breaking in with a sales mindset against that hard ground of the mistrust?
Well, firstly, the 18 months was it's probably a luxury that maybe not a lot of startups get, because there was funding coming into the business, I suppose, from the subcontract work. I had the luxury of the other business that was doing well and had the time available. So the 18 months was a luxury, but absolutely critical and invaluable in terms of what we've seen in terms of the growth thereafter. The things that the time that we've spent investing into really understanding what these businesses are actually looking for, rather than what the industry thinks these businesses want. So we come at it with fresh eyes. We've got things in place that overcome those trust barriers, and we're delivering actually what these businesses want. And then we launched as wayv with all of these key marketing messages that we wanted to get out to combat these trust issues, etc.
Give us an example of one of those that you could see was going to cut through a marketing message.
I'd be giving away a few secrets there, wouldn't I? I think one is that, and I talked about regulation.
Yeah.
We don't one of the things that we absolutely disagree with, what happens a huge amount in our industry, is a business can sign a 3-year or a 5-year contract with a provider, and 6 weeks later, if that provider wants to, they can change your price on a web page in the back of on their website somewhere. And if you don't somehow miraculously go on their website at every page every day, you don't know. And if you don't respond to that price change within a month, you're contracted to stick to it, and you can't get out of it. So, and I still think to this day, we are the only provider. I've still not seen another set of terms and conditions in our industry like ours, which state the price that you agree to in the original proposal is the price that you pay for the full term of the agreement. And it's as simple as that.
To me, that's like business 101.
I mean, it's easy, but and therefore customers know straight away, black and white. I'm not going to be, in a position in 12 months' time that the price has doubled and we're paying this for that, and all of a sudden we're paying for maintenance on top, and we're paying for this, and it's that's the price. It's fixed. Now you can relax. And for people like, for organisations like charities, for example, that's worth its weight in gold. They can budget effectively. They can go down this, and if they're getting a good service, they can forget about it. So that's just one of many.
That's a good example. That's what I would call a WYSIWYG business. What you see is what you get, which, you're in Yorkshire. That's what's expected in Yorkshire, but it's not as common as it should be.
No, it's not. It's the absolute nearest that we see is 6% plus inflation minimum every year charges. And sometimes, from the bigger guys, we see, it's 15, 16%. And SMEs, that's some of them, especially with some of the challenges that they're having to manage these days with national insurance, all that, 16% price increases on their telecommunications, the broadband. It's without them knowing half of the time.
There's a great equation for building trust. I mean, it's a bit simplistic to turn it into an equation, but trust equals reliability times credibility times likability divided by self-interest. So it's not about eliminating self-interest completely. You need to sell, but building that top line for all the reasons you've just said, because a loss of their service means reputation, means loss of money. So that's really important to them. Working out what's important against what's urgent. It sounds like you've got that understanding. And listening to you and going back to your sales experience and communication skills, from a communications point of view and an empathy point of view and an emotional intelligence point of view, what qualities do you think you have that are necessary to build that trust? What is it about your communication that you think cuts through and enables you to be a premium service? Can you at least correlate your communication skills with the ability to offer a good service, a premium service?
Well, I think that, from the mission of the business alone is to be recognised as the most trusted provider in the UK.
So trust is foundational.
Yeah. And every one of our employees know what the mission is and work every day to get closer to that. It's in our values. It's the way that we work. It's the delivering on what you say you're going to deliver. Gaining that from the outset, I mean, that's very difficult, and we know that challenge, and we've been talking about it. I suppose that's we try to give as close to the benefit of hindsight as we can to the customer by putting protections in place. But yeah, I think it's our staff. We're all, part of everybody's on that journey. We all believe in what we're trying to achieve, and it comes out of them when they're with potential customers.
It's in your culture.
Yeah,
it's a cliche, but under promising and over delivering is something that is easily spoken, but you don't see it as much as you'd like to. So what does that look like in your context, to under promise but over deliver?
We are very good at managing expectations. we've never, ever in the entire history of the business ever been accused of mis-selling. There's never been a customer that's called in afterwards and said, I was promised this, I was promised that. That just doesn't that doesn't happen. But at the same time, we do have incredibly bold statements. We do put ourselves up on a pedestal to be we're there to be shot at, because that gets the best out of everybody. We don't, we make these promises and we live up to them.
How would you summarize that as a value? What underpins that? What word would you put on it as a value that means you will follow through and do what you say you'll do when you say you'll do it?
I think it's just about honesty, really.
Honesty, integrity. I don't know.
It's knowing that again, I keep coming back to it, but when I think about every member of our team and the way that they handle customers and manage expectations, they're 100% honest at all times. Because the second, we've all experienced it through in terms of customer service from whatever service it might be. But you can tell when you're being lied to.
People are more perceptive than we give them credit for.
And we'd much rather be honest and say how something is and communicate effectively. They're aware that we're in the hands of the world of fibre, and that things can happen. A car might crash into a fibre cabinet, and a business is without their services. But they understand that things happen. Businesses understand their owners, the people that we're communicating with, understand that things happen. They just want to understand, how we're dealing with it, and they want to be communicated with honestly.
Does that level of honesty mean that there are times where you don't think a potential client is right for you, or you have to communicate that the service that they're asking for is not one you think you should provide for them?
100%. I think one of the things that definitely came out of that first 18 months of kind of research and trying, where do we want to position our business and where do we want to position our service? We made a conscious decision that we are not going after, anything and everything. We know what the target market, what the target customer looks like. We know what they value. And there have been many, 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 many occasions, unfortunately, where we've turned around and gone, actually, no, I think you should, there are other providers out there that you're better, suited to. And I think that it's difficult to do at times, especially when, you've got salespeople that
got targets.
Yeah, they've got targets, and it's like, I want to go after this and I want to go after that. What do you think of this? And it's quite hard sometimes to go, actually, do you know what? That's too big. That's not for us, or that's too small.
Or it's going to distract us, or
yeah, exactly. Their expectations are very different, or they're not realistic. I can think of a couple of examples. We want what's best for the business. We want this, we want that, we want the other. This is our priority. We want to find efficiencies in this area, and we want to provide great customer service. And then actually when you get to the end, and it becomes about the pounds and the pence, which are important, but when we go back and say, but we can deliver on all of the things that you told us were incredibly important, the drivers, the reasons that we're here because of the customer service and the productivity and efficiency, and we're going to deliver. But now actually what you're telling us is that you want to save £30 a month.
So they're not coming at it from a return on investment mindset.
No,
more of a cost mindset,
and that's fine. In that case, the price might be, and it often turns out to be in those cases that price is the most important factor for them. That's absolutely fine. It's just that we have to be confident enough to go, actually, then we can't deliver all that for that price. So therefore, I think, unfortunately, you'll need to go and find a different provider. And it's about being confident in what we're trying to offer and who that target customer is, and sticking to it. Because otherwise, you just end up, spreading yourselves too thin, and then all of a sudden, the service that you actually wanted to deliver in the first place has gone.
The irony is that price demand, as it were, is only because of short-term thinking, as opposed to the longer-term benefit that would be an ROI, which is the classic trap in any business, which is the pressure to get the revenue in, which goes back to what you said of having the 18 months of luxury. And a lot of startups don't have that, and they're going for cash, and they make decisions and position who they are, which actually short-term creates a hit, but longer-term starts to work against them. So it sounds like you've got a longer-term view, which has to come back, doesn't it, to who we are, what's our mission, who's our target market, which gives you some leverage. So,
and when we find those, and that's what we're looking for at the end of the day. In terms of growth, it's about bringing more and more businesses on board our platform. But when it's great, because when we bring those customers on that fit, and they're genuine partners, there is a partnership. They value absolutely what we're doing, and we value the engagement that they have in what we're doing. It's a genuine partnership then, and it works. And because of that, when things do go a little bit wrong, there is a really good understanding between us and our customers.
Would I be right in thinking that you came through COVID, the pandemic, relatively unscathed in that sector, because everybody was reverting to remote working and would have needed all those services, or did it present a challenge?
We launched as wayv what felt like about 30 seconds before we went into the first lockdown. COVID. COVID in many ways, you could argue, is incredible for the telecommunications industry, and reason probably behind all of the development, a big chunk of the developments and the way that our industry's changed since COVID. The way that people worked overnight changed, and has done and probably will do now forever. And therefore the way in which we communicate changes. So, but in terms of our business and having done we'd just had the 18 months kind of, not going for it. And we were just about to launch, and then we went into lockdown. So overnight, what we'd just chosen as our target market and to prepare our messaging for, they became the hardest hit. And overnight, they stopped making decisions, because obviously we didn't know what the future looked like. Wouldn't change anything, because it meant that during COVID, our understanding of what businesses wanted and the messaging, what we were delivering to the market became even more refined. We had to learn the hard way very quickly, because albeit we had the luxury of but the subcontract work that stopped, because we weren't going out to businesses, people working from home. The subcontract work stopped, and very quickly we had to start delivering. But we learnt the hard way, and we could see straight away that it was working, even in the difficult times. And I suppose it was what happened as we came out of COVID, the following kind of 3 years after that really that's where things took off. And it really, really felt like everything that we planned and what we learned throughout COVID, it just felt good, because it started delivery.
So, bringing us up to date, what does a good to great journey look like now? As a successful business, you've got a niche, you're not competing on price so much. What does the future look like? What is the vision moving forward?
Well, we've had slightly drop this year, but for good reason. But we had, after COVID, 2 continual years of over 180% growth in new customer acquisition. That's quite challenging to handle. that's dropped a little bit over the last previous in 2024. But the growth rate's been fantastic in terms of where we want to go from here. We set a 2030 vision in terms of what that looks like. It's a 10 million plus turnover business, and with a significant growth in terms of numbers. We've now got, there are over 20,000 people using our services across probably over 1,000 businesses, which have come on board pretty much within the last 3 years. So in terms of what good to great looks like, firstly, it's keeping those customers, which we will do by doing a good job. It's continuing that, that steady, sustainable growth. We now offer managed IT services to these same customers that we're already working with, and new customers that come on board. And then we've got plans in other areas and services that we want to offer to these businesses moving forwards. In terms of what the business physically looks like, we've got a great office down on Hunters Bar roundabout in the old Yorkshire Bank, which took some work, but that's not going to be big enough. So I imagine that throughout the next 5 years, it's probably going to involve some additional sites, whether that be dedicated sites for IT or our other services that we're going to start delivering to.
Do you see yourself acquiring into those services, acquiring businesses into those services, or not?
I don't think so. I think we like starting it from scratch.
You like being you.
Yeah, I think we like to do it our own way. I think there are obviously advantages of doing that and acquiring businesses, but I think there are big challenges with it.
Well, there's culture clashes potentially, aren't there?
Yeah,
value clashes.
Yeah, and I think we're quite. I would say we're quite unique in terms of and we take our time in terms of recruitment. So to overnight, onboard another culture and another business, I think that is challenging, and we've got to make sure. One of the things that we now see ourselves as is, we are protecting we're protecting the best interests of our customers. Can only do that by making sure that the people that come into our business are right for not just for us, but they're right for our customers. So yeah, I think we like the challenge. We've not had any investment or anything along this path. It's all grow from within. So and I think there's something positive about that.
Well, it's been fascinating listening to you, Liam. Really appreciate your honesty in that. And in many respects, you just brought us back to the basics of what makes business work. It is the ability to listen, to understand, to really drill down into what people need, consistency, integrity, good at what some might call old-fashioned values, but I would call timeless. The final question really is, what have you learned about yourself in that journey as a businessman?
I care a lot about people. I'm passionate about the people that work for us, and I'm also passionate about the customers that we serve.
Have you changed as a person? Have you learned some lessons? Have you made some mistakes that you think you've learned from that has meant you've changed as a person?
I think that from going from what was purely a salesperson to be, to being a managing director, you learn an awful lot. You make a load of mistakes.
You've got to be a business owner, not just a salesperson, haven't you?
Yeah. Do you know what? And this is a silly little thing. You don't know what you're capable of until you're doing it. And when I left Load Hog, what's probably 8, 9, maybe 10, nearly 10 years ago now, I was quite well known for being terrible with with the finances and the numbers and this and that. So one of my biggest, one of the things that I was frightened about going and building a business was, well, am I gonna fail because I'm not good with numbers? But when you've got to do it, you do it. And now I'm great with numbers. It's like I'm still in touch with my old boss Ed, and he laughs about it. He laughs about it. I'm pretty good with the numbers now.
That will be music to a lot of people's ears, because a lot of people will identify with that. There's a fear of numbers, but in truth, in business, it's never that much more complicated than multiplication, division, subtraction, addition. We're not talking about great long formulas here. Consistency, discipline. Yes, there's the management accounts to look at, and there's always ways in which numbers need looking at. But that journey of saying I was fearful of numbers, now I'm great with numbers, is just some discipline and some self-education, and anybody can do it.
Yeah, it's just spending some time and dedicating some time and learning it, and actually I enjoy it now. Yeah. I genuinely enjoy reading the management accounts, etc. Right. I'm not the best at it still, but
And if you went back to being an 18-year-old version of yourself, which is where we started, what would you be telling yourself now to look out for, or that you think your 18 version would need to know?
I suppose I used to be worried about not knowing what I wanted to do in my career. But I think if I was talking back to an 18-year-old Liam, I would just say, stop panicking about, where you're going, and go into every day and, try your best. I'm a competitive person. Continue to be competitive. Continue to, be persistent, and wherever it takes you, you've got
stay curious.
You've got a good chance of doing all right. Yeah. I used to worry about it quite a bit. I used to see everybody else. They knew where they wanted to go, what they wanted to do. I did a geography degree, because I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I liked travel. so yeah. But it's turned out,
Find as you go probably is how I would summarize that.
Yeah. I think if you just try your best every day, and you'll probably be all right.
And the best coach you've ever had? Who's been the biggest influence apart from your dad?
Well, yeah. I've probably mentioned them both. Actually, it's hard to not. But yeah, best coach I had was Ed Stubbs, who worked for Low Dog. He's now managing director of Gripple. But that was in my kind of working career, and then it's hard to learn a lot from my dad in terms of, I suppose, my my persistence, my competitive
life skills.
Yeah, absolutely. And was lucky to have a good role model like he was growing up.
Very good. Well, Liam Parnell, thank you so much for taking the time to share your thoughts. I'm sure that's going to be of value to those watching and listening.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Wish you all the best for the future.